Welcome back to the Today Show. I'm your host, Christopher Power, and our guest today is the hilarious Courtney Gilmore. So, Courtney, you were talking about them reaching out to you just before our break, but have you ever been on stage and just forgot a punchline? Like, what'd you do?
Oh my gosh. It's so funny you ask that because that just happened to me 2 weeks ago. And I think it was a combination of, well, actually, I think it's exclusively just having felt very rusty coming back from lockdowns and quarantine and just not being in the rhythm of doing comedy on a regular basis. So, yeah, I was doing a show and it was going very well. My set was going very well. And then at the end, I decided to close with a joke that I hadn't done in a while. And I knew I was going to do this joke, but I hadn't gone through it. And I was just like, oh, it will come to me. It'll come to me in a second. It'll all come back, just like Celine Dion told us. And that was not the case at all. I started talking. And as I'm talking, I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't remember what the punchline is. I remember it's like having a recipe. I remember the ingredients, but I don't know which order they're supposed to go in. And I ended up just telling this story that was supposed to be funny, but because I forgot the punchline, I think it just sounded concerning and kind of sad. So that was an unfortunate mishap that happened, and I felt so mortified by it. But the good part was a couple weeks later I was able to do another show and I did that same joke specifically to redeem myself. I just wanted to tell that joke again so that I could get it right and feel like I canceled out the blunder. So yeah, I mean, in terms of what you do, there's not really sometimes like calling it out in the moment can be funny, being like, listen guys, like I'm just gonna be straight with you here. I don't know what this joke was. I don't remember. So I don't know. It's a tough one. It doesn't happen that often, fortunately, but when it does, you just kind of have to roll with it.
Nice. So, what is something that people tend to misunderstand about you the most?
Oh boy. Well, it's interesting. Um I guess there are a lot of things to misunderstand about me because I think I get the impression that when I meet the average person, like in a comedy club or just day to day, I'm usually their first amputee. Like I'm usually the first and maybe only person they have ever met or will ever meet who's missing limbs. And that comes with all kinds of like preconceived notions and assumptions about how I live my life. And usually those assumptions they come from a place of thinking that, you know, I can't really do anything. And of course, all disabilities are so varying in the degrees of help that we need. And there's nothing wrong with needing help, but it's just so alarming to me that I will tell a story about taking a cab on stage and people will message me and be like, well, how did you open the cab door? How did you get into the cab? And I'm like, you weren't listening. So I think I joined TikTok a couple of months ago and I've been posting TikTok videos like my stand up, and the
Yeah.
comment section is wild. The comment section is just rampant with people, all kinds of assumptions, and it's very illuminating for me to be able to get a glimpse into what able-bodied people assume about disability, and it's annoying at sometimes, but at the same time it gives me a little insight into how I can approach the way I speak about myself, because you know if I can speak about myself in a way that tells you how to treat me in the future, I think I'm doing both of us a favor. So that's the way I look at it.
Now, it kind of leads me to my next question with you. You have a set, I believe, and it's awkward encounters.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like there's a parallel between the misunderstandings and these awkward encounters set that you have, did that kind of formulate that way for you?
Yeah, yeah. I think that my early start in comedy was heavily reliant on awkward encounters and very, bizarre exchanges I've had with strangers. I think the bulk of my comedy has been rooted in that. And it's done well for me because, when I talk about a cab driver, you know, asking me what happened to my hands. And then when I answer and he tries to relate to me by saying that his sister has back problems. It's like, it's funny, but it's also like when I tell an audience that, I feel like they're laughing because they know it's ridiculous, but they also identify with having been that person at some point in their lives. And so, I think that's very helpful for them to be like, "Oh, okay, like that's me. Like I've said something dumb like that before." And my comedy is not meant to be like an educational experience every
Sure.
time, but if I can help people realize that treating disabled people a certain way is kind of weird, that's important to me too. So yeah, but yeah, I guess there are definitely parallels between that, the awkward encounters. It's a funny way for me to call out those microaggressions and things like that in a way that brings more levity to the situation so that people can empathize with me and then hopefully change their behavior going forward into the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you were actually named, I believe it was the first female comic at the Just for Laughs Festival in
Mhm.
19 years in the homegrown category.
Mhm.
What was that like? Did they just say, "Hey, you won," and "Hey, great, let's go home"? Like, what was that process being there?
I mean, it was a pretty grandiose experience at the time. I mean, this was a competition that I had wanted. I mean, this was a goal of mine, was to go to that specific competition and ideally win. Um, I would have been happy just to have been there, but it was definitely a bonus. And to know that they hadn't, crowned a female winner in 19 years. 19 years is a long time
Yeah,
for only men, for only, straight men to be winning the title. And yeah, it was surreal to me at the time. It was a very exciting experience. It was my first time at Just for Laughs. And, for those of you who don't know, like the Just for Laughs festival in Montreal, it's like it's a goal for most comedians to reach. It feels like an Olympic level achievement to be there. And this contest was incredible. It was a really exciting, nerve-wracking experience. I didn't know if I was going to win. They had like a tie with me and another person in the competition who is a non-binary
yeah,
comedian. And it was incredible. It was really, I felt very good about myself, and it was just such a surreal night and definitely a memorable experience for sure.
that's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
if I was reading correctly, at one point in time, you wanted to become a model, and I believe you got that opportunity to do so with Now Magazine, if I'm not mistaken.
um I haven't I didn't want to be a model, but like, hey, I'm not gonna say no to a nice photo shoot. I mean, I'm a 5'0". I'm a little, I'm short. I'm not usually models are like very tall and stuff, but like, yeah. Then I've done a couple of photo shoots. I did one for Fashion Magazine, and they dressed us up in like Sephora stuff, and it was really awesome. And then, yeah, and then I've had some features in some magazines, and it's very cool to have that experience and have people feature you that way.
That's awesome. Do you get to
Yeah.
keep any of the clothes afterwards, or you got to give it all back?
I think I gave it, but yeah, I had to give it back. I had to give it back. Yes. I think I got some free makeup, but yeah, I had to give it back.
Brilliant. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.